It's a tough task for the minister today, reporting on the economy's health in the midst of fraud charges and the debacle over Treasury.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be a tough one for the minister this afternoon. Good afternoon, Natasha. Remember that the minister appears in court on fraud charges in 7 days' time. Many of his supporters say those charges are frivolous. If that isn't enough, he's got the ratings agencies on his back, calling for a sustainable concrete plan to improve the country's growth. Then, of course, there are calls from SOEs and students wanting funding from the Treasury. So, yes, indeed, no one would want his job at the moment, but we do expect a very composed, collected Pravin Gordhan as Finance Minister this afternoon, as we always do, sticking to a tight fiscal path.
All right, Devan, so what will this budget reveal then about the economy? I mean, we know that the ratings agencies will be keenly watching, so what will they be looking for?
All right, so remember, the ratings agency does a round of reviews in December. Now, Pravin Gordhan had pledged in his February budget that they will get growth under control, at least efforts to improve growth. He also says that governance structures would be sorted out as far as governance around state-owned enterprises. And then, of course, the ratings agencies also want to see the country handle its debt situation. And if those concrete moves on those aspects are not seen in this budget, we could possibly face a downgrade. And Pravin Gordhan once again will have to do all of this, trying to stick something up to bring that growth trajectory above that dreadful 0%. Remember, that's what the Reserve Bank said we could face come the end of 2016. Now, if we do not get the growth up, if we don't stabilize our debt, if we don't sort out state-owned enterprises, ratings agencies will be watching that very carefully, and it wouldn't be in our favor.
All right, so Devan, as chaotic scenes continue across the country's university campuses, students, I imagine, would also be glued to this address. Can they expect something from the minister this afternoon?
Well, in fact, there is some expectations that some of those students might be this afternoon. Remember that chaotic scenes we've seen last year at the midterm budget. What you're probably hearing at the moment are a group of DA supporters, about a few dozens of them, also holding placards across the street and supporting the students' call for affordable education. But back on what the students want, I mean, this is something that he was asked on Morning Live. Leanne Mann put that question to him. What can we expect as far as university fees are concerned? Analysts largely say that there might not be any concrete moves, but what he could do is provide some context. That's what he told Morning Live. He will put a context around those demands from university students. He could put some models as proposals. One issue could be to increase the amount of contributions made by Treasury to tertiary education. South Africa currently sits around 0.75 of their GDP to university education. The average in Africa is 0.78. So it's likely that he would put the context in. He would offer some proposals on some funding models, but I don't know if there's going to be huge leaps or jumps. Remember, the Higher Education Minister this week again reiterating that there will be no free education, but only for the poor.
All right, something else, Devan. What about some clarity on the future of the nuclear program? Could this be a platform to deliver a clearer picture on that issue?
Yeah, that would be a big one if there are some concrete moves mentioned this afternoon. Remember that it's more a case of policy clarity that some of the investors are looking for when it comes to energy policy. For instance, we've got Eskom saying they can't afford independent power producers, they can't afford to procure from them, and therefore they point to nuclear. The energy minister, Tina Jomo-Petersen, has been somewhat more ambivalent. So there isn't some clear policy on where our energy priorities and policy stands at the moment. So if that is mentioned today, we probably would get a good story out of that.
All right, Devan, thank you very much. Devan Murugan live from the parliamentary precinct ahead of that midterm budget speech, and it does sound quite noisy there already, as we know that members of the